Hello, my friend. Welcome to the sixth and final installment of the Radical Purpose book series. If you haven't listened to the first 5 episodes or watched them, check them out. Before we go any further, I want to just stop and explain one thing. This is not a motivational close. It's not a victory lap. It's not a highlight reel. In some ways, it's a bit of a reckoning. After walking through vision, environment, traits, skills, imagination, courageous conviction, there's really only one honest question left. Does this actually work? Not in theory, not just in a book, not in a sermon, not in a podcast, in real life. Does choosing purpose over shortcuts, over convenience, over speed, over optics, does it actually pay? And at some point, every serious leader reaches a moment of tension in their own life, a moment where conviction, it feels costly. And the return, maybe it feels delayed. The market rewards shortcuts. Integrity feels inefficient. And it's where we begin to sometimes wonder whether we choose the harder road for nothing. And that's the moment this episode exists for. If purpose does not produce fruit, if it does not create something sustainable, meaningful, lasting beyond intention, then it becomes, a luxury belief. You see, visionary leaders, they cannot afford luxury beliefs. They need truth. So today, we're asking the question beneath everything: when courageous conviction is stewarded over time, does purpose pay? And the answer is yes, but not the way most leaders expect, and not on the timeline most leaders tolerate. You see, purpose does not pay the way a hack pays. It does not pay the way leverage pays or optimization pays. No, purpose pays the way compounding pays. And compounding always looks inefficient at the beginning. That's why most people quit. They mistake delay for failure. They confuse silence with absence. They assume that because the return is not immediate, the direction might be wrong. And here's the first principle that must be understood clearly. If you only believe in purpose when it produces immediate return, you do not actually believe in purpose. You believe in performance. Purpose is not validated by speed. It's validated by durability. And I think this is where leadership either matures or it collapses. Early leadership is often fueled by momentum, but mature leadership, it's sustained by stewardship. Vision cannot start something that's powerful unless stewardship keeps it alive. Stewardship requires a shift. Most leaders, they resist it. A shift from starter to that shepherd, from initiator to builder, from energy-driven leadership to discipline-driven leadership. And that's often where Milton Hershey was misunderstood. You know, people speak of his generosity. Man, he was generous. His school, the town he built. But they miss the architecture behind it. You see, Hershey did not stumble into impact. He structured for it. He understood something most entrepreneurs never internalize. Profit is not the goal. Profit is the fuel, and fuel is useless unless you know where you're going. You see, when success came, Hershey did not ask how much he could extract. He asked how long it could serve. That single question changes everything. It changes how we hire, how we scale, how we distribute resources, how we define winning. Extraction optimizes for now. Stewardship optimizes forever. Each leader should answer this question honestly. If your business doubled tomorrow, what would actually happen? I mean, not what we hope would happen, but what actually happen. Would your values scale with it? Would your culture hold? Would your systems support it? Or would the cracks simply become louder? See, most leaders do not fail because they lacked vision. They fail because they were not prepared for success. Purpose pays only when leaders make the shift from excitement to responsibility. And in a lot of ways, I think this is where Walt Disney's story adds another layer to the conversation. You see, the early Disney was fueled by imagination, but late Disney was sustained by systems. And that distinction matters. Imagination without structure burns people out. Vision without discipline collapses under pressure. You see, Disney did not just protect creativity by keeping it loose. Hey friend, it's your friend, Dr. Nate Salah. If you've ever wondered how your leadership style reflects Jesus, or how it could, I've got something just for you. It's called the Incarnational Instrument, and it's a powerful self-assessment we created to help you discover your biblical identity, your leadership profile through the lens of Christ. It's practical, it's insightful, and it's completely free for our podcast community. Just head to biblicalidentity.com to take yours today. That's biblicalidentity.com, and find out how you lead and how you can lead holy. He protected it by making it repeatable through standards, through training, through these principles of design, through clear expectations. It's not bureaucracy. Some might have thought it was. It was stewardship. You see, culture does not survive on intention, friend. Culture survives when values are translated into repeatable behavior. And that's when purpose becomes durable. You see, many purpose-driven leaders, you might find this amusing or sad at the same time, they sabotage themselves. And they do that by assuming systems dilute vision. And in reality, the systems protect it. So if leadership requires constant heroics, the systems are underdeveloped. It's not an insult. It's just a diagnostic. Heroic leadership, it doesn't really scale. It exhausts. So purpose pays when leaders are willing to build boring things so meaningful things can survive. You know, Steve Jobs adds a really sharp edge to this conversation because he didn't save Apple when they were 90 days from insolvency with vision alone. He saved it with subtraction. Fewer products, clear priorities, non-negotiable standards. He understood this brutal truth. If everything matters, nothing matters. Purpose requires constraint. Not because leaders love control, but because clarity demands it. And here's a direct truth that I think leaders need to hear. Values do not scale because you talk more about them. They scale because they are embedded into decisions. What gets approved, what gets cut, what gets funded, what gets ignored, what gets tolerated. Purpose pays when it shows up and how decisions are made without you in the room. I want you to pause here for just a moment, be honest. If you stepped away for 6 months, what would actually hold? Think about that. Not what you hope would hold, what would actually hold. You see, that answer, whatever it is, hopefully it's honest, tells us whether purpose is paying yet or whether everything is still dependent on you. You see, dependency is not legacy. And this is the uncomfortable truth at the heart of this final installment. Most leaders do not quit purpose because they stop believing in it. They quit because stewardship requires patience they were never trained for. Compounding feels slow, invisible, and unrewarded in the short term. Yet, compounding is what creates steady power. You see, purpose does not pay quickly. It pays inevitably when stewarded long enough. Most leaders quit right before inevitability. They make mistakes, silence for failure, slow growth for wrong direction. You see, the harvest never looks impressive while you are planting. No, this is the line between leaders who build movements and leaders who build moments. It's the difference between conviction that starts something and stewardship that finishes it. This is why this episode exists. Because the final test of leadership in senses of purpose development is not whether you can start well, but whether you can remain faithful long enough for the return to mature. If purpose truly pays, it does not only pay in results, it pays in relationships. And the currency of relationships is trust. Trust is not soft, sentimental, optional. Trust is infrastructure. It is the unseen framework that determines whether anything you build can survive pressure, transition, time. And purpose-driven leadership, it produces that relational capital. Relational capital is what carries organizations through seasons when strategy alone fails, friend. Milton Hershey, he didn't build trust with speeches or slogans. He built it with consistency. People didn't have to wonder which version of him would show up. His alignment became predictable. And over time, predictability formed confidence. And confidence, well, it formed trust. Disney, he built trust through shared story. People weren't simply completing tasks. They were participating in something meaningful. And meaning multiplies endurance. People will tolerate pressure when they believe in the mission. They'll not tolerate hypocrisy, though. You see, trust erodes quickly when values are declared but not practiced. Steve Jobs built trust differently, not through comfort, but through standards. People trusted that the work mattered. Trust does not require gentleness. It requires integrity. It requires leaders to be consistent in what they protect, what they demand, and what they refuse to compromise. You see, purpose pays. When? When people believe their effort contributes to something worth sacrificing for. And I want to point to an operational truth that leaders need to consider and accept. You can grow fast without trust, but you cannot endure without it. Trust lowers friction. It increases discretionary effort. It stabilizes culture during change. But these aren't abstract benefits. They're measurable outcomes. And organizations with trust move faster with less force. Organizations without it, they require constant enforcement. Purpose also pays through culture, through your reputation. You know, your brand, it's not just what you say about yourself, it's what others say about you. You see? And that is a reflection of your reputation. Hershey became associated with responsibility. Disney became synonymous with wonder, excellence. Apple became known for simplicity, coherence. None of these reputations were manufactured first. They were lived first. Culture compounds. Culture attracts aligned people, repels misalignment. It reduces enforcement costs. It creates momentum that leaders do not have to constantly generate. Culture does what rules cannot. Over time, it becomes the primary carrier of purpose, friend. Why? Because it has to live beyond the founder. This requires a leadership reframe for many of us. Purpose does not usually pay quickly. It pays inevitably when stewarded long enough. And most leaders, you know that They confuse all kinds of issues. They misinterpret slow growth. Harvest never looks impressive, friend, when planting is still underway. So how should leaders measure success? Not by accumulation, by continuation. Ask better questions. If we stop tomorrow, what would continue? Are people better because they passed through what we built? Are values being practiced without our enforcement? Will someone benefit from the decisions we made today, long after we're gone? Friend, those are the metrics that matter. Some of the most successful leaders will never be famous. They'll be known by their families, their teams, their integrity, their faithfulness. Their success, it's not going to trend, but it's going to endure. You don't need to be Milton Hershey, Walt Disney, or Steve Jobs. You need to be faithful to the vision you have been given. Purpose is not about comparison. It's about obedience, about courage, about stewardship, about building something that reflects who you are and who you're called to serve. If you do that, purpose will pay. Not always loudly, not always quickly, but always meaningfully. Because the greatest return on leadership is not what you gain, it's what continues after you're gone. This is the harvest of radical purpose. And as we close this series, my hope for you is not clarity alone, but courage. Not inspiration alone, endurance. I pray that you lead with conviction when it's costly. I pray that you steward well when growth is slow. I pray that you remain faithful when results are often delayed. May the work of your hands, may it outlast your presence, and may the lives you touch carry forward when you plant them in obedience. If this series has resonated with you and you want to go deeper, Radical Purpose is available to purchase on Amazon or your favorite bookseller. It was written to be more than a book. It's an invitation to lead with intention, with integrity, with endurance. And I invite you to continue the journey there. Thank you for walking through this series with me. Lead well, stay faithful, build something that lasts. Thank you so much for supporting this program. I'd like to pray for you for just a moment that God realigns the heart away from pressure, pride, performance, back to His presence. Let us grow in God's wisdom. Let us give from our overflow, and let us go love radically in every place God sends us. Make us holy, Lord. Set us apart, not just successful, but surrendered. In Jesus' name, amen.